The slow seizure of power. How authoritarian rule takes hold in plain sight. Authoritarian control does not arrive overnight. It is not introduced with sirens and speeches. It moves quietly, strategically, and deliberately. It advances while people are distracted, exhausted, or told that nothing serious is happening. By the time the danger is undeniable, the damage is already deep. This is not speculation. This is a pattern. It has repeated itself across countries, cultures, and generations. The names change. The language shifts. The strategy stays the same. What follows is a clear explanation of how authoritarian power takes over a nation, step by step, so people can recognize what is happening while there is still time to respond. The first move, overpowering the law. Authoritarians do not immediately eliminate laws. That would trigger resistance. Instead, they overpower the legal system. Courts are pressured, judges are replaced or intimidated, legal standards are bent, enforcement becomes selective. Laws still exist, but fairness disappears. Friends of power walk free, critics face consequences. The rule of law becomes a weapon instead of a shield. When the law stops protecting everyone equally, democracy begins to crack. Replacing trust with loyalty. Once public trust in institutions is weakened, a new force is introduced. This may be framed as necessary for security, order, or patriotism. In reality, it exists to bypass accountability. Traditional police and federal agencies are discredited, restricted, or stripped of authority. A parallel force emerges, one that answers to power rather than to the people. Loyalty becomes more important than legality. This is how control replaces protection. Silencing the media without shutting it down. The media is not silenced all at once. First, it is attacked. Credibility is questioned. Truth is labeled as lies. Facts are drowned in noise. Then come threats, lawsuits, access restrictions, and financial pressure. Outlets that comply survive. Those that do not are pushed aside. Eventually, information is no longer about informing the public. It becomes about shaping belief. When people cannot trust what they hear or see, confusion becomes control. Targeting the most vulnerable. Authoritarian systems always strike the most vulnerable first. Elders are neglected. People with disabilities lose support. Low-income families face harsher conditions. The middle class is squeezed until stability disappears. Social programs are weakened. Healthcare becomes uncertain. Housing becomes unreachable. This is not accidental. Economic stress keeps people focused on survival rather than resistance. Fear becomes routine. Exhaustion becomes a tool. Propaganda and division as strategy. Division is essential to authoritarian control. People are split into groups. Neighbors are turned against each other. Disagreement is framed as disloyalty. Followers are encouraged to attack critics, not debate ideas. When civilians fight each other, those in power avoid accountability. Chaos becomes cover. Rights are not removed, they are punished at first. Rights technically remain. You are allowed to speak, but consequences follow. You are allowed to protest, but labeled dangerous. You are allowed to vote, but barriers appear. The message becomes clear. You can have rights as long as you do not use them. Freedom still exists on paper, but the price of exercising it becomes too high for most people. Force turns inward. One of the most dangerous shifts happens when force meant to protect the nation is turned against its own people. Citizens are labeled threats. Dissent is framed as danger. Control is justified as safety. Surveillance increases. Intimidation becomes normalized. This is the moment when power no longer fears the public. Detention and camps as a warning. History shows that authoritarian systems often introduce detention facilities to intimidate and control. These places are not always announced loudly. They are framed as temporary, necessary, or for public safety. The real purpose is psychological. They exist to send a message. This is what happens to those who resist. Fear becomes policy. Economic sabotage for the benefit of the wealthy. The economy is not mismanaged by accident. It is manipulated. Policies favor the wealthy while the public absorbs rising costs. Jobs become unstable. Prices rise. Security disappears. Meanwhile, power and wealth concentrate at the top. Economic pressure silences resistance more effectively than force. Turning on their own people in the final stage, the mask comes off. The same supporters who were once praised become expendable. Promises are broken. Protection vanishes. Loyalty is no longer enough. At this point, accountability no longer exists. Institutions are hollow. Fear is normalized. Silence becomes survival. This is when people realize the truth they were warned about. Understanding this pattern matters. Democracies do not collapse because people are weak. They collapse when people are divided, distracted, and discouraged from seeing what is happening in front of them. Truth still matters. Unity still matters. Participation still matters. And the future depends on whether people choose awareness over comfort and courage over silence. If you also support democracy and freedom, feel free to join me in this fight. Click follow, click subscribe, and join me. Divided we fall, and together we can knock down mountains. Through unity is the only way we can make a change. Thank you, stay safe, God bless, I love you all. Crowning Thoughts, True Speaker, copyright 2025 by Santiago D.C. Maria, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution.